because you have to have a certain level of empathy and care when you're in a role, a CSR role like this, because your whole job is to find ways to create some level of change and drive impact in whatever the priorities are for your organization, whether it be restorative justice, disaster relief, or health and human services, or child safety, whatever it might be. You have to have some level of care because you're dealing with people. And this is at the core about people. And so I call it heart work. So it is something that you have to truly feel here in order to continue and push forward.
Welcome to episode 61 of People Are the Answer. I truly believe that people are the only answer to the world's many problems. I'm Jeffrey M. Zucker, a serial entrepreneur here to learn how innovators are creating outsized, transformational social impact. Today's episode features Jai Kensey, Director of Social Impact at Green Thumb Industries. Jai has a wide array of experience in communications, from sports to telecom to healthcare, and also spent 8 years as the Manager of Development Communications at the American Red Cross, where, among many accomplishments, content she produced on the California wildfires received a Gold Telly Award. Jai and I discuss her growing up in Southern California and finding her way east, the various roles that taught her how to be successful in the communication space, her desire to create positive impact, how she ended up at GTI, and much more. Here is Jai Kensey on People Are the Answer. Jai, thanks so much for joining me on People Are the Answer.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you and your work. And it'd be great if you could start off by just telling us who you are, where you're based, and what your current role is.
Yeah, so I'm Jai Kensey. I am based in Chicago, Illinois, to be specific, in the historic neighborhood of Bronzeville. I am the Director of Social Impact at Green Thumb Industries, and we are a national cannabis consumer packaged goods company.
And generally, what would you say motivates you in life?
Well, I am a mom to a wonderful 4-year-old. And so he definitely is a huge motivator for me in terms of just wanting to be a better me, to create a better world in terms of the community work that we do. And so looking at him and just wanting to push harder and to work harder to make sure that, we find peace within our communities and provide resources in our communities, because that's the community he's going to be left with. So I think that my son is probably my biggest motivator. And then also I would say my community partners. The community partners I work with are so dynamic, and they are just in the trenches day in and day out doing amazing work. Some of them with families, some of them working full-time jobs on top of the community work that they're doing. And so when I'm with them, it definitely just makes my heart sing, and it makes me want to do more and to contribute more. I just came from this event with a group here in Chicago called Healthy Hood, and they're launching a program to help reduce crime within Chicago. And I just left there feeling so inspired. So they also, those types of community organizers and builders motivate me too, just because of how active and how passionate they are about change within the communities.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I can certainly relate on the family front, and seeing other leaders in the community it definitely has always been inspiring for me as well. So I can certainly relate to that. And I'm curious, where did you grow up, and what was it like there?
I am from Southern California, a suburb outside of LA called Claremont, Pomona area. They're very close to each other. So it's about the Pomona, Claremont area. I grew up, my mom was a single mom. She raised me and my sister. My grandmother helped raise us with my mother. My mom and I grew up in a Habitat for Humanity house. So I helped build the home that I grew up in, which was an amazing experience of being able, again, to be inspired by people who came in to help build the home that I was able to live in throughout my junior high school and high school years. And that first experience of working with the nonprofit, working with people to ensure that they can have a piece of the American dream of home ownership. And so that's why Habitat for Humanity still to this day is one of the organizations that I just love so much, because I experienced the true impact of what they do in my own life. So it was great. I mean, it's interesting too, like working in this cannabis space. My mother, she used to sell weed in order to take care of me and my sister. In addition to her full-time job, she was a hustler. She did anything she could to make sure that she was able to provide for us as well as my grandmother. And so seeing her, and then also growing up with being surrounded in the cannabis community, is so interesting how I like ended up in this space in my career. But having it with it, coming from California, it's like the hub of the cannabis world. So it was interesting, but it was a great childhood. I felt like, I didn't want for anything. We were just happy with what we had. I had cousins, and it was just a beautiful experience of just love at its core, even with despite all of the challenges that were there. Like, you couldn't tell me that we were poor with having a Habitat for Humanity house being built. It wasn't until I got older, like, oh wait, that we grew up in this Habitat house. But for me, it came with a sense of pride. Like, we have a home. I get to walk to school every day. I get to have a place where my friends can come. Before that, we were dealing with things like evictions and having our water cut off and all those things. So it created a sense of stability and safety that I needed as a child. My sister and I needed. And so it was like I said, it was a great childhood in terms of the sense of like having family and love around me. But there were definitely obstacles that we didn't let hinder us, and we just kept pushing forward and moving forward and doing what we had to do to get by.
Sounds like it was, tough at times, but you had all the warmth around you and the right mindset. So it seems like that stuck with you along the way. And it's interesting to hear what you said about cannabis. Obviously, it's something that's always really been around and is moving from sort of an illicit background to this like regulated and legal market. And I think it's good to hear that, you're part of it now, when your mom had to rely on it to help take care of you guys, and to see how it's evolved. And I think that's certainly an interesting aspect of your work.
Yeah, it's because I didn't even really connect the dots until I got into the cannabis space. And it's like, because it was so much a part of my everyday life in California, I never really connected the dots until I got into the cannabis space and the cannabis industry, to really say, okay, there's a link here between my personal life and lived experiences. Because even I think about my brother-in-law building his own underground market in the cannabis space, him having a cannabis conviction, his son having a cannabis conviction, and just bringing all those components together and realizing like, okay, there is lived experience that I can help inform the work that I'm doing here in the regulated market. And it definitely is helpful because it brings that level of empathy and understanding of social justice issues that are you see plagued within this industry.
Yeah, exactly. And, hopefully people that have been affected by the war on drugs continue to get opportunities in the cannabis space.
Yeah, I hope so too, because there's definitely a need to have lived experiences to help inform, strategy, policies, laws, everything, so that folks can understand what it is like to be in this space, the impact that it's had, and what's needed in order to move it forward to create a more diverse space.
So growing up in Southern California, what brought you to Georgia for school? I saw you went to Morris Brown and Georgia State.
Yes, I wanted to go to an HBC. So this was the thing, because my mom didn't come from a background of, we didn't have college graduates, and so I was a hustler in high school. So I had to figure out how to get into college by myself, how to apply for financial aid by myself. So I literally just looked at a map and said, "Itty, bitty, bitty, mo," and I and I just picked a state. And I knew that I wanted to go to a historically Black college, so I just picked a few. I applied. I got into one in Georgia, and I had never been to Georgia before in my entire life. And so I said, you know what? I'm moving to Georgia. And so I gave my mom the letter, the acceptance letter, and I will never forget. She was sitting on the porch, and I said, I got into college. I need you to drop me off in Atlanta on this by this date. And she said, how did you do that? How did you do that? So she and my grandmother rented a van, packed all my stuff in a van, and drove me to Atlanta. And I ended up going to Morris Brown for 2 years, majored in mass communications. I originally wanted to be a news anchor woman. And it's funny, my grandmother, when I told her that, she said, well, baby, how you gonna get a job doing that? Because she said these anchor men and women, she said, I feel like they have to die in order for you to get a spot. So how are you gonna get a job doing that? So I told her, I said, I can do it. I'll do it. And so, but it interesting, after a while, I changed my major just a bit and tweaked it and became and majored in PR, journalism with a concentration in PR and minor in marketing. And so after 2 years there, I couldn't afford the HBCU anymore. And so it was either find a cheaper school. You know, my grandmother, who was supporting me in college, she said, either you have to find a cheaper school or you have to come home. So again, me being a hustler, I said, I have to find a way to stay here in Georgia. I said, I'm not moving back to California. So I figured out a way to get into Georgia State, to get in-state tuition, to prove the case of getting in-state tuition, which was significantly cheaper than what I was paying for the private historically black college. So I got into Georgia State, which was literally a 5-block walking distance from the school where I was. And I got in there. And it's so funny because the first year at Georgia State, I was on Morris Brown's campus so much that people didn't even realize I had transferred schools. So it was great. I loved it. It was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And it was an amazing experience being able to go to an HBCU, to see people who look like me, just doing amazing things. And, you know, before then, I had never seen a black doctor. I had never seen a black police officer. I had never seen anyone black working in banks. And you move to Atlanta, and it was just like the floodgates open, in terms of people from all over the world who look like me. And it was a big experience and a huge transformation for me in terms of just knowing who I was as a black woman.
Yeah, it sounds like an absolutely powerful experience. And I'm curious, you've talked about learning, communications and PR. What initially sort of drove you that direction? What got you interested in it?
Well, what got me interested in communications and PR, I had an English teacher in high school. I went to Chaffey High School in Ontario, California. And I can't remember the teacher's name, but I do remember we used to write journals and stories in class, and she took interest in, she was interested in my work. And she mentioned to me one time, you know what, you should think about writing. You should think about being a writer. And I'm like, a writer? What do they do? I had never heard of that before. I'm like, people do that for a living. And so she said, yeah, you should think about being a writer. And so from there, I joined the school newspaper, the yearbook committee, and it just turned into this whole driving force for me. Like, I had no idea there was something that someone thought I was good at before then. And so it was the idea that someone saw something in me that I didn't even know existed. I was just doing what I love to do. It really sparked something in me. And so I started working on the school newspaper. So that led me to being interested in journalism, PR, and communications. And here I am today. It's very rare, too. Most people who graduate with a certain degree are not working in their field, but I'm stuck with it this whole time.
No, that's impressive. And it's cool that you found, relatively early what you're interested in and had the opportunity to focus on that. And, you've had an extensive career in communications, working with firms and telecom companies, healthcare companies. And I'd love if you could just kind of walk us through the highlights of that journey prior to when you joined the Red Cross.
My journey before the Red Cross was, I always say I have like a gumbo of industries and sectors that I've worked in, which has been a blessing because it's given me the opportunity to see how things operate in different industries. So I went from, my first internship out of college working with the Los Angeles Clippers. And that was my first exposure to corporate social responsibility. I was there for a PR internship, and I was introduced to the woman who leads their corporate social responsibility. And again, another moment of, I had no idea there was a job focused on just giving back to the community. And this is why I'm so big on exposure, especially in different communities, because people don't realize that there are opportunities there. And so it started there from working with the Clippers for a season. I moved overseas for a bit to Japan to teach. And then when I came back to the States, I worked with some boutique agencies, communications agencies, where we did a lot of corporate social responsibility and communications campaigns in the health and science sector, with the California Department of Health. And then from there, I moved to larger global PR firms, like Ogilvy PR, Edelman PR in the US and in Australia, where I worked on campaigns with pharmaceutical companies. So there were like communications and community relations. Some of the campaigns really focused on multicultural communities, reaching them. So community relations efforts related to that, working with tons of pharmaceutical, the CDC, the National Institute of Health, multiple pharmaceutical companies. And then from there, I wanted to work for, I knew that I love the community relations aspect of the work that I was doing. There was always like two themes of all the work. It was always storytelling and corporate social responsibility, always linked together. And the two they have to be linked together in order to operate well. And so I knew that I loved the community aspect of the work so much. So I wanted to transfer into a global nonprofit side to really get some, as you can tell, I love living and traveling overseas. So I knew that I wanted to get into a global nonprofit. And so that's where the opportunity with the Red Cross came, where I supported a lot of our corporate partners with their corporate social responsibility efforts, activating those and really telling the philanthropic story of their support of the American Red Cross.
Got it. That's really interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's, you started off your career in, trying out all these different things in different sectors, which I think must have been incredible to get all these different experiences and help you understand different areas. And then that sort of led you on your path. I mean, when you first got into communications roles, did you have any idea where you wanted to end up? I mean, I imagine it wasn't nonprofit initially.
No, I initially wanted to work in sports, which is why I got the internship. Again, I'm a hustler. I'll never forget All-Star Weekend came to Atlanta, and my friends and I were in like a boardroom at Georgia State, and I said, "Okay, guys, this is the weekend. We are all leaving here with internships after All-Star Weekend." We created cards with our name, our contact information, everything. And our goal was, we are not leaving All-Star Weekend without an internship. And I met a woman in the bathroom. Her name is Nicole. We're friends to this day. And she was in the bathroom, and I said, it was like some Nike activation. And we were in the bathroom, and I said, "Oh, I love your shirt. It's so beautiful." I'm just sparking conversation with anyone I come in contact with. And we started talking, and she said she was from LA. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm from California too." We started talking, and I said, talking about the work that I wanted to do. And she said, "Well, I work for the Los Angeles Clippers." And I said, "Oh, really?" So with that, I gave her my information. I applied for the internship. She referred me. And just like that, I got an internship with the Los Angeles Clippers. So,
That's awesome.
so it was a perfect opportunity for me to get my foot in the door, to really see what it's like working in the NBA organization, to see, like, do I want to stay in sports PR? Do I want to stay in sport? Well, I ended up going into the sports, the Clippers community relations team, and it was great. But it really it made me see, like, okay, I think I want to move to a different sector. And so when I moved overseas, it gave me a bit of breathing room to try to figure out, like, what do I really want to do in which sector? I knew that I wanted to continue to do the same work, storytelling and community relations. So, but I've been blessed with is being able to move those skills into different sectors. So then I came into the health space. And I come from a family of health professionals. So it was very natural for me to go into the health space with the agency I worked for in LA, Young Communications Group. And there it was just amazing because I got to work with, like, all these health organizations, departments, and really work on storytelling, hearing people, the impact of the work that community organizations are doing, or government agencies are doing. And that was something that really, I really loved, just because I got to go to community events, sit with people, talk with them, find out, help to build solutions on health, on health equity issues and health disparities. So that was definitely something that was amazing, to be able to work hand in hand with the community organizations and the people who were impacted by any type of health disparity that they suffer from. So that was great. Yeah. So it's been great. And so it just kind of, so for me to go into the nonprofit space, it really was just working with all those nonprofit organizations and community organizers that really attracted me to look at the nonprofit space, to see, okay, let me see about how I can leverage these skills to move into that space on a global level.
Yeah, I think it's great that you always had kind of this open mind around your work in terms of how it can evolve, and not pigeonholing yourself, and just that attitude of, like, hustling in terms of being able to get that internship and all the things that led to. So certainly admirable qualities that others should follow.
Yeah, harass people in the bathroom for
I
for an
mean,
internship.
you got to do it tactfully,
Tackle. Right. Yeah, it was great.
So in 2013, you started your time at Red Cross and spent over 8 years there. You were the manager of development communications. So I'm sure everyone listening has heard of the American Red Cross, but what's a simple way that you would describe the organization and what it does?
The American Red Cross is the American Red Cross is a national organization, but within a global society. They are an organization that leverages their staff and volunteers to help alleviate suffering through various services, whether it be international services, so global efforts, like you just saw with the earthquake in Turkey recently, disaster services, whether it be floods, wildfires, um, service to armed forces, providing service to members of the military who need to get home, or who need any type of services, as well as training, where they do CPR training for our babysitting training, any type of life-saving training, as well as they provide blood donations and life-saving blood to hospitals. So it's a great organization. It's been around for centuries, and it is like, once you're part of the Red Cross family, you're always part of the Red Cross family. And it definitely is an organization that's doing some tremendous, impactful work in the communities across the U.S. and abroad.
Awesome. And what was your role there?
Yeah, I had a very unique. I was the first person in my role, actually. So one of my favorite people from the American Red Cross, Anne Marie Borrego, she hired me to lead our development communications, which was to work directly with our development team, our fundraising team, and our corporate partners to implement corporate social responsibility programming, which was their support of the Red Cross, whether it be donations for disasters, programming, and then also helping those organizations tell their philanthropic story as it relates to the Red Cross. So that looked like, for example, I'll say Disney. With Disney, we were able to work on their programming to sponsor a children's emergency preparedness program called the Pillowcase Project. So they created pillowcases with cute little Mickeys and all of the little characters on the pillowcase, and children at daycares and schools across the United States learn how to put items into that pillowcase in case of emergency and how to escape. And from that, so working with the programming on that, but then also that philanthropic storytelling is working with our production team, me serving as a producer, going out, capturing footage of the activities, capturing videos, interviewing parents, interviewing children, interviewing program directors to talk about the programming so that we can package that and give it to Disney to share on their external platforms with their internal and external audiences. So helping them tell their story. Another great example is with the Walmart Foundation. So they had donated $7 million to support the Red Cross's nurses assistant training program. So through that programming, they provided scholarships to hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals looking to become nurses. And so I would work with the foundation to we did a graduation in one of the facilities that had a large number of graduates. And I went out with the Walmart Foundation's president, and it was just like a tear fest. We were filming, students are coming to the president, thanking them for their scholarships and how this type of funding has been life changing for them. So that's like kind of like what I would do is really help to tell that philanthropic story and help with programming implementation from the CSR side, working with Walmart, Facebook, Target, Amazon, Anheuser-Busch was a huge donor. And so working with them to really be aligned as a true partner in telling that story through the Red Cross's lens.
I mean, you must have learned an incredible amount working with such big partners like that and learning about how their organizations run. Can you talk about some of the learning from that?
Yes, it's so important too because every CSR department is completely different in the way they operate. And so one of my favorite, I would say favorite because they're all great donors, but one of the, I'd say Amazon, an amazing partner. I'll give two examples, Amazon and Anheuser-Busch. Amazon, what I love about their approach of corporate social responsibility is that they would come to the table and ask, what do you need? What do you need specifically? Even if it wasn't the shiniest thing, even if it wasn't a shiny program that they could put their name on, they were willing to come to the table to support in a way that helped the community and helped with what we needed at the time. And so they were great partners in that way. And then at that time, when I was there, they were building out their community media team, a communications team, because they also saw the value of having a communications team that focused on specifically corporate social responsibility communications and that storytelling. So they were really good at the storytelling and also coming to the table as a true partner, wanting to work with the Red Cross from the creation of an idea all the way through and being there hand in hand, ongoing to ensure that we felt like a partner versus a donor and a donor recipient.
That's great.
And then another example is Anheuser-Busch, and this is the value of creating a deep partnership. That is an example of a partnership that's been around for centuries, and it just kept growing. And the way that Anheuser-Busch has supports multiple areas of the Red Cross. It's a holistic view of a partnership. It's not a one-off event. It's not one specific program. They have their they provide their support in international services, disaster relief, life-saving blood, any area of the Red Cross. And so it's more of a holistic approach, which I think is very valuable. And then also looking at providing annual support instead of coming to the table with a one-off gift. It's how can we support you during what we used to call blue skies when there aren't any disasters so that the operation can continue and with that unrestricted funding. So it was great to see. And again, they're also great with storytelling as well as leveraging their resources for nonprofits. They would support us during the Super Bowl and giving ad space. And so they would always look for opportunities to let their nonprofit partners shine to show the work that they were doing together. So those are two great. And so I take that with me now in the work that I do. With the importance of unrestricted funding to ensure, nonprofits can, sometimes the need is just keep the lights on, hiring staff, social workers, or whoever it might be to ensure that programming can continue to move forward. I take those types of experiences with me when it comes to creating deeper relationships, multi-pronged partnerships, as well as long-term partnerships. So definitely look at those two organizations as great examples of great partnerships.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that there's some of these big companies that, really are helping. And I know a lot of people probably hear about, the CSR at this big company and they're just like, oh, that's just for show. But I think the reality is, and should be able to confirm, is that a lot of the people that go into these roles truly want to make a difference.
They do. A lot of them do. And you would be surprised. And sometimes there are a lot of companies that want to do a lot, but they don't want to talk about it. They are just happy to support and they feel like, oh, we're okay. We don't want to talk about it. And so the perception is that they're not giving back, but they really are and giving back a lot. And I think about Costco. Costco is a partner like that. Costco, was constantly just giving, and the people there are just phenomenal, and in terms of their support. And so it's definitely because you have to have a certain level of empathy and care when you're in a role, a CSR role like this, because your whole job is to find ways to create some level of change and drive impact in whatever the priorities are for your organization, whether it be restorative justice, disaster relief, or health and human services, or child safety, whatever it might be. You have to have some level of care because you're dealing with people. And this is at the core about people. And so I call it heart work. So it is something that you have to truly feel here in order to continue and push forward.
Heart work. I like that. If you're enjoying this episode, I would greatly appreciate if you could review, like, comment, or subscribe on your favorite platforms. Your engaged support goes a long way in helping the show grow and getting our impactful guests heard. Now back to the show. So you mentioned earlier that you are now the Director of Social Impact at Green Thumb Industries, GTI. For those that aren't familiar, what is GTI and how did you end up there?
GTI, Green Thumb Industries, is a national cannabis consumer packaged goods company. We have 79 dispensaries across the United States and 17 cultivation facilities across the U.S. Yes, it is so interesting. People ask me, because I go to a ton of cannabis conferences and events, and I just applied for this job like anyone else on LinkedIn or Indeed. I can't remember which platform. So the universe just aligned for me, and it was interesting because I tell the story all the time. I sound like a broken record sometimes, or how I wrote down what I wanted in my next role when I decided that I was going to change. It was in the heat of everything happening with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And I knew that I just wanted to do something that was in the restorative justice space and the social impact space. I love the work and the mission of the Red Cross, but I said, you know what, this is like a season for me where I just want to really be my authentic self and focus on restorative justice and any type of efforts that are supporting Black and Brown communities. And so I wrote it down in my journal, what I wanted, how I wanted to feel, what type of role I wanted, what type of teammates I wanted, the environment. I wrote it all down, meditated on that on a regular basis, and just put it out there. And I applied for this job. And you know what's so interesting is when I interviewed for this role, I didn't even talk about my lived experiences in the cannabis space. Now I'm like, why didn't I talk about that? I should have said those things. But I still got the job. But it was interesting that after the fact, I realized that's when my boss found out, like, what? Your nephew has a cannabis company? I didn't know that. And I said, I should have mentioned that in my interview, but I didn't. I was just really focused on my love and my passion for community and social impact efforts. And so I'm happy that got me in the door. And I love that everything has just come full circle in terms of my love for storytelling, my love for social impact and restorative justice efforts, and my love for the community.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a great fit. When you mentioned looking for jobs and applying for the GTI role, were you looking specifically in the cannabis industry or just, sort of in the CSR space?
Just in the CSR space. So that's how I just happened. I said the cannabis industry found me because I wasn't looking specific because it had already been a part of my life. It's like it wasn't like an industry for me. It was more like this is just the way of life. Weed. We didn't call it wasn't cannabis until got into the industry. It was always weed. And so I said, so it was interesting that the weed industry found me, even though it had always been a part of my life, but I was specifically looking for a corporate social responsibility role that was focused on supporting the Black and Brown communities and had, that was focused on restorative justice and really helping. Because at that time, as you can imagine, I was just in this space of I need to do something to help the community. After watching all the civil unrest that happened, I was in this space of I have to do something. And if I'm going to spend 40 hours a week, which we all know no one works 40 hours a week, it's like 50, 60 hours a week. It needs to be something that I love and that I'm passionate about and that I could do, that I just want to do even on my own time.
Yeah,
So here I am.
well, I'm certainly glad you ended up there. And myself, having been involved in the industry for about 8.5 years, involved in advocacy very closely as well, I've seen that, GTI has done a good job being one of those companies that set the example in terms of how cannabis companies should be, that how crucial it is to be involved in the criminal justice and drug policy reform aspects of the industry. And I found that, despite being this, good sized public company, that GTI has stuck to those values. And I've really appreciated that.
It's a value that runs throughout the entire company. When we do new hire orientation, we start off with the Jay-Z New York Times op-ed that talks about the war on drugs and the impact that it's had on communities. Because for me, it's important for everyone who's signs on to join GTI to understand, the history and the impact that this the propaganda around this flower has had on communities of color. And so it's definitely, you see it throughout our teams, throughout our volunteer community within our organization, throughout our leadership. We've worked to support organizations across the U.S. with over 3.5 million in donations just last year to support organizations under the restorative justice umbrella of our social impact work. We have a brand dedicated to working with nonprofit organizations under the restorative justice umbrella that focus on education, expungement, and excuse me, and employment. That's our Good.green brand. And so that is something we're funding, and unrestricted grants over 12 last year have gone to nonprofits working in that space, providing expungement efforts to support people, helping organizations that help formerly incarcerated individuals. So we're definitely have our finger on the pulse of what is happening in the communities and what's needed, and providing those resources where we can to ensure we can at least do our part, because we feel like it's our obligation to ensure that we're on the forefront of it and not ignoring the fact that this dark history, is there. It's there. And so we have to make sure we are putting our best foot forward to help right the wrongs of the war on drugs.
Absolutely. Very well said. And you mentioned facilitating, over 3.5 million in donations to nonprofit organizations. Can you talk more about how that's done and how you guys manage that?
So with our donations, we have various programming. So our pillars, so through our social impact program, we have restorative justice, community engagement, DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental stewardship. The bulk of our donations fall under that restorative justice pillar, that where we have general donations to organizations that are our ongoing partners, whether it be for event sponsorship, programming needs. And so they come to us for donation needs. But we also have our Good.green program Good.green brand, which I mentioned, that has that works with nonprofits in 3 areas: expungements, employment, and education, where we've had grant grant where we've awarded grants to those to about 12 organizations nationwide to provide funding for programming in those areas. We also support individuals through our community engagement, which involves our First Day Profits program, where we donate to a local nonprofit with our all of our first day sales of our new location. So we've given over 160K through our First Day Profits last year. We also have a program called Roundup where our customers, thanks to their generosity, our customers have rounded up their purchases to give to a local nonprofit, and over $380,000 has been donated through that just last year. And lastly, through our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts, we support brand founders. We support of color. We support entrepreneurs of color in the cannabis space. We've worked with programs like Our Academy, which is a great organization based out of California that helps brand founders and have supported them through their scholarships. We've worked with the Cleveland School of Cannabis, Olive Harvey College and their cannabis education program to really ensure we're helping to diversify the space. And so we're looking at, we really like to work with grassroots organizations. I know I came from like a global national organization, but I love being in the trenches with folks who look like the folks that they're serving and really are trusted in the community and have and are listening to the voices of the community to really understand what those true needs are. And so we really try to keep our finger on the pulse of that so that we can provide those resources. And again, like the example I have from Amazon, coming to the table and saying, what do you need and what can we do for you?
Yeah, what a great example you took. And it's so important to be involved directly in the community and have the community tell you what it needs instead of you just kind of deciding what they might need.
Right. You got to come in and listen. My first 4 months at GTI, it was just a listening tour, going to conferences, meeting with nonprofit partners, taking inventory, what is needed, what are the hot points, what are the places where we would fit in based on our priorities and our pillars that we had established. And so I spent a ton of time just going to talk to organizers and nonprofit organizations to really understand what the needs were.
I know that you developed GTI's first social impact report. Would love to learn more about that and just what your findings were.
So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I worked with the team. It was definitely a team effort. I can't take a team effort to put in the first social impact report together. It was great to just see it really highlighted, like you said, over 3.5 million in donations to organizations, and just put in all the work that's being done in the field. Our amazing team members at our retail locations who are volunteering day in and day out to really show that we're there to not only provide premium product, but also to give back to the community, to highlight them and to show, to give them their flowers, to show them that we appreciate the work that they're doing. We have volunteers who work with our partner. They're called American Corporate Partners. They're a veteran organization that has that supports veterans who are looking for mentors as they re-enter into the civilian space. We got to highlight them in this report and talking about the work that we do in that area. So it was just a great opportunity for us to come together as a team to really highlight all of the work that's happening across the board and to really shed a light on our employees who are out there in the community tirelessly giving their time to support the community the way that they do. And it was such, even our new employee resource groups, it was so great to see, that we were able to highlight them. We just launched a number of employee resource groups to really create a space of belonging at GTI. And we were able to include them in the report. So again, it just gave employees an opportunity to see themselves and the work that they were doing and all of the work that they're doing in our retail stores to help drive those donations. So it was really almost like a love letter to employees to thank them for their efforts in the community and putting it all packaged in a bow so they can see it.
That's really nice. It's got to be great for them to have that added context and that added motivation when they're doing their work.
Yeah, to feel proud of themselves. Like, you helped drive this. Thank you. So it's just a thank you letter to them.
And speaking of, DEI, at Green Thumb and otherwise, You have a DEI hiring event coming up June 19th. Would love to hear more about that.
Yes, I'm so excited about this. So I mentioned our Good.green brand. So our Good.green brand is partnered with 40 Tons. It's a social impact organization, woman owned, black owned, based out of California. They're national and they host the Level Up Career and Business Expo. And we are partnering with them as the title sponsor for the event happening on June 19th at Malcolm X College. And so it's going to be an amazing opportunity for people to come and get their resumes reviewed, haircuts. 40 Tons, they go all out for these events. And so I'm excited for us to partner with them. Haircuts, workshops. You can learn how to, it's going to be very experiential. So you'll be able to learn how to, build out your resume, how to apply for jobs, how to, what is it like in the day of someone in a production facility. And so there'll be various activities as well as expungement opportunities there. So they'll have lawyers there to help with the expungement work and answer any questions. There'll be various workshops, a panel discussions, as well as a number of vendors and companies that'll be there answering any questions about job opportunities within the cannabis space. It's targeted at people who are justice involved, but anybody can come. It'll be a great opportunity, and Good.green is just so honored to work with 40 Tons on such an important event in this space.
Yeah, it sounds like a really great resource. And do you have any particular insight for someone either looking to attend or looking to get into the industry?
Yeah, if they're looking to attend, they can go to Good.green, and we'll have a registration link there. So Good.green, we'll have a registration link there. And or you can follow Be Good.green on Instagram, and you can find information about the conference there. But just come with your resume, come with the positive attitude, come with the resume, come excited, come talk to people. Talk to everybody you bump into. You never know who's in the room. Don't be shy. We are there to serve you. So come there, ready to have us to serve you, whether it be a haircut, getting a suit tailored, whatever you need in order to help you on this journey of getting into the cannabis space and to answer any questions you might have. That's what we're there for. And that's what the other companies are there for. And that's what 40 Tons is all about. It's an amazing organization, and they are there to serve just as we are from the Good.green side.
Yeah, that's it sounds like a really great resource. And I love that, you're not just kind of handing stuff over, you're really teaching people how to make the most of a potential career.
Yes, we're there to answer any questions, whether it be how do you apply, how do you transfer your skills? A lot of the questions we always get is how do I transfer my skills from whatever industry you're from into this space. And I always tell my story about coming from a nonprofit side and transferring those core skills that I had, storytelling, CSR, and bringing those into this space. There are a ton of people who don't have cannabis space, cannabis industry experience. And so you can leverage your lived experience as well as your professional experience and bring that into this space. I talk about my brother-in-law who he didn't even graduate from high school, but built a cannabis business that employed multiple people and fed multiple families. And so that level of hustle and skill, you can take that and transfer that into something to build on your own, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to work within the cannabis space with the company. So it's just finding out what are those core skills that you have, what do you love, and what's going to make you tick and thrive, and transferring that into the right area of the cannabis space. It doesn't have to be plant touching. It can be on the ancillary side where you can start your own business. And so everything at the Level Up, at the 40 Tons Level Up career conference will have that type of information for you so that you can find out what is for you in this space. So just come ready to learn and ready to ask questions and to really be provided with the information you need in order to succeed in this space.
Sounds great. Well, I hope people check that out on June 19th. Throughout our conversations, one thing that's come up is how important impactful storytelling is to your work. I'd like to just dig in a little more there. Personally, I find that good storytelling is one of the best ways to build empathy and to humanize issues. And I'm curious how you've utilized it in your career.
It's so true. It's so true. I always say storytelling helps you talk from your heart versus from your mind, where you can change people's hearts and bring people into a world that they are not used to or that they haven't experienced before, so that it drives them to act, to do something, whether it be to donate, whether it be to speak up, whether it be to support in some kind of way. And an example that I love, I used to serve as a producer for the Red Cross. So when I would build out content packages for our corporate partners, like once I went to California for one of the wildfires, and my job was to find stories of families who had, they've lost everything. And it's almost like being in a scene of a movie when you go out to these wildfires. And finding these families and them trusting me to sit down and to talk to me about what just happened to them, the impact of it during one of the most devastating times of their lives. And it takes a level of a serious like empathy in order to do that, and care, because you have to wear the hat of, I'm the content creator and I have a purpose here for my job in order to gather this content for my corporate partner as well as for my nonprofit, for the nonprofit org I work for the media. But then also I have to be present and a human for this individual who is clearly in pain and trying to figure out what are they going to do next after going through such a devastating disaster. So capturing that content there, that was like, probably, I think the California wildfires comes to me because it took me about like a week or so to get past that emotionally, because you do have to like really put yourself in that space. And so we developed tons of content from that disaster, videos. One of them actually won a Telly Award from the California wildfires. And one of the we were able to get content in Spanish and English so that we can ensure people who were bilingual knew where to receive resources who were impacted by the fire, and sharing that content with our corporate partners so that they can show their external and internal audiences where their how their donations were supporting the Red Cross. So that was probably something that was extremely impactful for me from the storytelling side, and still is something that it's just, I'll never, experiences that I'll never forget, of being in shelters with children, sitting on cots and playing on the floor with kids in a shelter who have been there for a month, trying to figure out, where they're going next, and listening to their mom and hugging them and being there with the shoulder for them to cry on. And the fact that they would trust me with their story and gathering their stories to share externally was, I was extremely grateful for that. But it really created this level of humility in me, and just to be grateful for everything, and to live with this level of gratitude for every day, because just to be able to see how one day everything can be gone just like that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, sounds like really powerful experiences, especially doing things like going and visiting victims of the wildfires. And, you kind of already answered it, but my next question was if you have a story of where you really saw how directly your work could affect change.
That was definitely the disasters, going in. I remember it was this family, a wife and a husband, and they had a 4-month-old baby. And we were in California, and like I said, it was a scene out of the movie. They had, a whole neighborhood wiped out. And we went back with them to their home to take footage of where their home used to be, and to see them, their resilience, to see, how grateful they were for just having, shelter from the Red Cross and food. And even despite that, they weren't angry. They weren't, they were just focused on hope and thankful for the support that they were receiving. The husband had his baby strapped on his back, and all he was doing was consoling his wife in the middle of ashes, standing in the middle of ashes. And it was their anniversary. It was just so overwhelming emotionally because, and the hardest part is like you want to do more because you're like, I just want to help them. I want to like take them home with me. Like, I'll help you do what I can, but you have to create, the tough part is creating that boundary, but seeing the direct impact of something as simple as food, shelter, those two things changing, their whole situation where their 4-month-old baby had a safe, warm place to sleep that night after they had lost everything and their home was literally ashes.
I can't even imagine. It sounds like you guys provided a great resource for them, and it's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it was really a great journey at the Red Cross, and the greatest moments were definitely in the field, capturing those stories and telling those stories of real people who were impacted, and the support, the impact of the support from corporate donors, because without them and the volunteers, it's just, their support was just, you can't even put a value on it when you could see directly how it would help people who were in need.
Well, you've done, a lot of really interesting things throughout your career, and I'm curious along the way, has there been anyone in particular that's been an impactful mentor for you?
So many people. Oh my gosh. I've had some of the most dynamic women in my life, starting with my grandmother, who was an entrepreneur all my life, the strongest woman I've ever known in my life, who really taught me the importance of giving back, who really taught me about just being fearless and going for what you want and being strong. From Gwendolyn Young at Young Communications Group, who still serves as one of my mentors to this day, who I love dearly. Sheree Bishop at the American Red Cross, who leads government affairs there. She is a dynamic woman. Lisa Ross at Ogilvy, Vicki Jones, Anne Marie Barrick. I've just had so many women who have, in moments of my life, have really guided me through this. Jamie Carlton, one of my first internships in Atlanta, still to this day. Bridget Williams, who was the head of comms for Red Cross in Arkansas. I still pick up the phone and call her to this day for advice. And so I'm so blessed and thankful to have all of these strong, dynamic women who, I might not talk to them every day, but I hope they know that they have left an indelible impression on me, and I will never forget them and forever be grateful for everything they've done to support me throughout my career.
That's incredible, and I really appreciate how it sounds like you've kept up a lot of those relationships and, are very grateful and appreciative of what they've afforded you.
Yeah, you can't do this alone. I came from, I was super green when I came into the corporate world, bright-eyed. I didn't have family so that's why I give so much of myself, especially for young women coming into this corporate space, because I was just a little Black girl coming into the corporate space, had no idea how to even fill out a W-2 form or a W-2. It was just, I had to learn. And I was so thankful that, those women were put in positions to able to help guide me, because I didn't have that guidance coming up. And so I was very green coming into the corporate space. I say I became a woman in the corporate space. I learned how to navigate those spaces, and I'm so thankful for the women who were there who helped guide me through that process.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. And if you'd like, you can ask me a question.
Well, what motivates you?
Yeah, I mean, I might just have to piggyback off your answer a little bit. Certainly my family, my wife and my 2 young sons, and they certainly changed my perspective on a lot of things, and I'm motivated to do right by them. And, additionally for me, it's always been about just my family, that as it goes back as well. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My, dad immigrated from Israel, and, he and my mom lived in a trailer when they got married, and worked really hard to get to move their way up and afford me and my siblings all the opportunities that we had. And so I'm motivated to do justice by that, and also to create the positive impact that, I was taught to try to create. My dad's sort of mantra was tikkun olam, repair the world in Hebrew. And so I just try to apply that in the various things that I do.
That's beautiful. I
Yeah,
love
thank you.
that. Now, yeah, it's nothing like family that'll help motivate you and just wanting to do to honor the people who came before you. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. Honor those before and try to give good opportunities to those coming after.
For sure. Always, always. Yeah.
So, sort of to that end, if everything were to end tomorrow, you can sort of decide what that means. What are you either most proud of or most grateful for?
Oh, my son. I'm sorry. I know it's like, I guess it's kind of cliche to say my son, but he really has sparked a new light, a new fire in me. And so I'm forever grateful for him because, when I was younger, in college, I was a hustler. I was like, I gotta get there. I gotta get the internship. I gotta get the job. I gotta do this hustle, hustle. And then I was like, okay, I'm comfortable. But he has lit like another fire in me that wants to, create a better world, do more. I want him to look at me and say, I'm so proud of you, and so I'm thankful. So that's probably the number one thing I'm most grateful for is him because I just feel like he's lit a fire in me that will last a lifetime just so to continue to make him proud.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can definitely relate to that, and I'm sure that he's really proud of you and looks up to you tremendously.
I hope so. I don't know. He's 4, so right now he's just like, "Where's my iPad?"
Oh yeah, no, I get that. I totally get that. Trust me. So the big question I make sure to ask every guest is this: if you could snap your fingers and fix one thing in the world, what would it be, and how do you think that change would reverberate?
I would say, for me, institutional racism. That's I know it's a heavy one, but that's probably one that especially as I've become a mother and just living my life as a Black woman, being friends with people from all over the world of different backgrounds and different cultures, and just seeing the impact it's had in not only one area of life, health, education, politics, it's all across the board, and seeing the impact of it. So I would say institutional racism, to just let's just wipe it out and let people just be human and happy, and being able to operate in a space that's equal and fair to all.
Amen to that. Certainly would be a better world if we could all just relate as humans, and we're so much more alike than we are different, and so many people unfortunately focus on the differences.
Yeah, I just came from an event today where, they were encouraging people where you don't agree with someone, become more curious versus distant. Become more curious, ask questions, get to know someone, learn about someone's culture, ask questions and understand why their perspective is the way it is versus just discounting them and shutting down. So that's definitely the number one. It's because it's definitely something, especially with me raising a young Black son, something that I think about on a constant basis. I tell the story all the time. When I found out I was having a son, I was happy, but immediately after that feeling of happiness came worry. And I immediately thought, how am I going to raise a young Black son here? How do I keep him protected? Do I keep him in the house? Do I not give him a driver's license? What do I do? So it's definitely something that is in the back of my mind on a constant. I try not to think about it, but when I look at him, I definitely have that in my mind of how can I ensure I keep him protected from the harms of institutional racism that exists here.
Yeah, and as much as you try and want to protect him, he still has to kind of go out in the world and be subject to everything that's out there. And I can imagine in some ways how scary that could be. And but it sounds like you're doing a great job so far, and it's going to be learning experience as you go.
Yeah, that's all you can do is just hope for the best and provide them as much information as possible to arm them and to create a strong foundation of self to understand so he can understand who he is and how important he is and why he matters, so that he can, understand that he deserves a space anywhere, any table. And so, yeah, that's all I can do is provide him with that and hope that when he goes out into the world, he knows how to operate in that world.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, learning more about your story and your work, learning more about GTI's efforts, and how can people listening support you and your impact?
Well, visit Good.green. We're going to have a lot going on for the 40 Tons Level Up Conference, Level Up Career Conference. So check out that. Follow BeGoodGreen. Not .com, but on Instagram at BeGoodGreen. So follow those sites, and you can find those pages, and you can find more information. You can go to gtigrows.com and click on the social impact tab to learn more about the social impact efforts. But you can also just help by finding a local organization in your community and give back through volunteerism and donating and support causes that are important to you, and to ensure you help move the needle in the community where you live.
Very well said. Jai, thank you so much for being here and for all your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I look forward to continuing our conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of People Are the Answer. If you enjoyed the episode, share it with friends, and reviews or subscriptions on your favorite platforms go a long way to help the show grow. I want to share these incredible people and their remarkable work with as many others as possible. Thanks for your support. For more, go to peoplearetheanswer.com.